that the International Criminal Court is actually going to issue arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and a number of other top Israeli officials. So the U.S. has decided to involve themselves in an attempt to stop this process. Let's put this up on the screen. This is a report specifically from the Times of Israel, but there were a number of reports across Israeli media. So according to those reports, the U.S. is part of a, quote, last-ditch diplomatic effort, in other words, threats, to prevent the ICC from issuing arrest warrants against Netanyahu and other Israeli officials. The news site Walla, an analyst there, writes Netanyahu is, quote, under unusual stress over the prospect of an arrest warrant against him and other Israelis by the UN tribunal in The Hague, which would be a major deterioration, they write, in Israel's international status. Netanyahu is leading a, quote, nonstop push over the telephone to prevent that arrest warrant and has focused especially on U.S. President Joe Biden. Another Israeli media analyst, Haaretz Amos Harel, writes that the Israeli government is working under the assumption that the ICC's prosecutor may this week issue warrants for Netanyahu, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, and IDF Chief of Staff Herzi Halevi. Netanyahu's latest public statement about the war said forthcoming decisions by the ICC could set a, quote, dangerous precedent. And he also said, we will never stop defending ourselves, whereas decisions of the court in The Hague will not affect Israel's actions. They would be a dangerous precedent, threatening the soldiers and officials of any democracy fighting criminal terrorism and aggression. There was also, Sagar, a New York Times report. This was the first one I'd seen in the New York Times that came out just yesterday evening about how imminent these potential arrest warrants are. They said in that report from the New York Times, they had some indication of what the arrest warrants may be specific to. The Israeli officials could potentially be accused of preventing the delivery of humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip and pursuing an excessively harsh response to the Hamas-led October 7th attacks on Israel, according to some of the officials they spoke to. The Israeli officials who are worried about the potential fallout from such a case said they believe Netanyahu is among those who might be named. It's not clear who might be charged from Hamas or what crimes would be cited. So just to be clear for people, the U.S. and Israel are not actually participants in the ICC. The ICC doesn't have its own police force to come and arrest Bibi Netanyahu, as much as I would personally love to see that image. However, there are 124 countries that are involved in the ICC, and any one of those countries would be obligated, if they travel to those nations, to arrest Bibi or Yoav Gallant or any other officials who were potentially issued these arrest warrants. So, obviously in terms of the international standing of Israel, having your prime minister having an arrest warrant from the ICC out for war crimes against your prime minister is a pretty significant development.
Yeah, they're only